A spousal RRSP is used to income split if you are expecting to have one individual who has more income in retirement than the other. You could say they have less relevance than they used to because the government introduced income splitting in retirement a little over 10 years ago. But there can still be uses for them. Income splitting in retirement, you can only split half of a RRIF and half of a RRIF income and half of a pension. There might be reasons why you want to split more than half. Also, RRIF income splitting only starts at age 65. So I would say there is still definitely use for a spousal RRSP. With a spousal RRSP, there are two parties. There is the contributor and there is the annuitant. The contributor is the one who puts the money in, hence the term contributor. They make the contribution. So the contributor puts the dollars in. The annuitant is the one who owns it. The contributor is the one whose limit is impacted and the one who gets the deduction. So let's say that my spouse earns more money than me. So she might want to contribute to a spousal RRSP for me. So she's the contributor. So she puts money into my spousal RRSP. She gets the deduction on her taxes and it reduces her limit. I'm the annuitant. I own it. So the moment the money goes in, she no longer has any control over it. It is legally now my money. Separatable in terms of a marital breakdown, yes. But as long as we're together, that is my money. I have complete control over it. The receipt that you give to a client will have both of our names on it. And some receipts has my name more prominently as the annuitant. So a client might question that. You just point out to them on the receipt, shows contributor if other than annuitant. And that's the person who deducts it on their taxes. Then someday when I draw it out, the hope is that I'll be in a lower tax bracket as the annuitant and I'll pay less tax than she would have if she had withdrawn it. The government has attribution rules. They don't just apply here, but they do apply here. Attribution in taxation means that I'm going to attribute or I'm going to apply the tax to somebody other than who has the money. I'm going to apply the tax to somebody other than who earned the money. And the attribution rules are to prevent someone from income splitting. Spousal RRSPs are a legal form of income splitting, but what the government with the attribution rules is trying to do is trying to prevent somebody from just putting money in and immediately taking it out. So you might be like, hey, a great tax strategy, if your spouse earns more, is just put it into a spousal RRSP and draw it out again right away. These spousal RRSP attribution rules try to prevent you from doing that. So how do the attribution rules work? So if there have been any contributions to any, this is the important thing, to any RSP in this year plus previous 2 calendar years, that income is going to be attributed if I make a withdrawal up to the full withdrawal. Any contributions to any RSP this year or previous 2 calendar years are going to be attributed back to the contributor. So the contributor has to pay the tax. And that's what we're trying to avoid by using a spousal RRSP. So let's consider a question. You have a couple, and we will just name them E and F. So E is the higher income earner. So E is going to put money into F's spousal RSP. E is going to put money into F's spousal RSP. So let's say that in 2018, E contributed 5,000. In 2019, E contributed 1,000. And then in 2020, F withdrew 8,000. So E is the contributor and F is the annuitant. Now, the important thing is that it doesn't matter where this money went. So let's say that E contributed money. Let's say that E has another plan. So this is at one bank. So let's say this is at Scotia. So all of this money here is at Scotia. But E has a plan at TD, and the money has been there. They have 10 grand, and the money has been there for 10 years. And this is where this withdrawal is coming from. This is again at TD. So who pays the tax? So first of all, this whole part, this is important, but this whole part, the whole TD thing and the Scotia thing is irrelevant. The government looks at it and they say, well, if it's in 2020, any contributions, so this here is a withdrawal. This is a withdrawal. Any contributions in this year, 2020, well, there were 0. In 2019, there was 1. And in 2018, there was 5. So a total of 6. So any the amount of the withdrawal up to the any contributions in this year plus 2 calendar years are going to be taxable to the contributor. So E is going to pay tax on 6,000, and F or Frank will pay tax on 2,000. Why? There was an $8,000 withdrawal and 6,000 has been contributed. It's irrelevant the fact that the money is coming out of the TD plan that hasn't had contributions for 10 years. That is irrelevant. From the government's perspective, an RRSP is an RRSP. They keep track of it in one kind of group or one plan, one place.